This is a Guac is Extra. It's a live series. We're talking to Rio Waves. Now, Rio Waves has just come together as a unit. They just came out with their solo. It's called Don't Let Me Go. That's something that they can listen to where?
Apple Music, Spotify, all major streaming platforms.
When did this band come together? And let's talk about your solo.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, the name was supposed to be Lost Boys in reference to Robin Williams, his movie Hook. Last minute, after I had the song already made and created, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do something like Rio Waves, because Rio, Grand Valley, that's kind of a reference to home.
Correct.
So that's the route I went with the name. But yeah, it started, I believe, in August of last year. I've had these songs, tons of songs written for the past 5 years. And now, after finishing grad school, I actually had time to create it. I asked a friend if he could do it for me, and he was like, yeah, sure, just come on in and, we'll work on the single. And it was very interesting because he normally records metal bands, and he does a lot of RGB metal bands and all this stuff. So we were like, let's wing it. Let's see what happens. It'll be something cool. The band was actually kind of supposed to be a synth pop, synth indie type, Panama Wedding type feel. And we just went with this feel. And I was like, okay, I actually like this better. I like the more of an actual band, not having to use tracks or stuff like that.
The name of the song, Don't Let Me Go. How did that come about, creative-wise, and developing that song?
Sure. So I actually wrote that melody riff probably 2013. I like to think the sound is more like early Vampire Weekend type music with a little pop feel to it.
Right. That's the impression that I got.
Yeah, awesome. Great. I eventually wrote down the bass line and the guitars, and I can't play drums. So I just kind of told my friend, hey, I hear this in this part and this part, and then just kind of build around that. So yeah, I created all of that, and then the lyrics were the last thing I did, just because I haven't written stuff for my own personal band in a very long time. The song idea is just basically how my life is. This whole EP is going to be basically the past 5 years or so of my life, 5 to 7 years, just because that was the biggest turning point in my life, moving to Austin, going to grad school, and then just kind of everything in between, friendships, relationships, family ties, religion, it's going to incorporate everything. And so this single is specific about my time moving to Austin, meeting somebody, and kind of trying to work with each other, trying to make things work. The song does sound super happy, but the actual context, it's not, because the girl is having, a hard time connecting with the guy, while at the same time, the guy is kind of pushing means to be hey, I need somebody. Hey, I want somebody. So yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet kind of feel.
What is creativity to you?
Creativity to me, it's just your emotions just taking physical form, really. Everybody has a creative bone in their body, but everybody is just different in a sense where I write lyrics, I make music, somebody else can do a painting. Yeah, I just think it's just emotions just being physical, really. And
then to be able to reflect that, what comes first for you? Do you normally write the song out first, or do you normally have to feel it with an instrument first?
Instrument always first. I don't know why. I tried doing lyrics before on my own and then adding music, and it wasn't working at all. I feel there needs to be some sort of tone when you're creating the guitar parts and all that first. And usually I'll start off on my acoustic, and I'll try and complicate things where I don't use bar chord or something like that. I try and write to where the bass line actually keeps the rhythm and holds it down. And then the guitar just adds an element to it.
You mentioned Vampire Weekend. Are there any other artists that come to mind when it comes down to the influence of this band?
Sure. I think lyrically, Relient K is another influence of mine. I mean, to me personally, they're just influences. If people want to put me in a box and say this is what you are and this is what you're gonna forever be, I'm gonna be okay, we can say what you want, but at the end of the day, I get to decide what I want to be. Like, maybe I'll do something more acoustically on the next EP. I would like to change it up every time. I think there's like a formula in the music industry that works pretty well, where it's like you can do your first album phenomenally and just have it as a certain style, and even follow up with the same style in the next album. But then, of course, by the third album, you would have to change it up, because there is growth. Everybody grows and has different stages in their lives. So, if people want to put me in the box, that's okay.
When you first, I was listening to your song, obviously, before the interview. It was very catchy, personally speaking. It reminded me a lot of Vampire Weekend did come to mind. I wasn't kidding when I said that. Another one was, because of how playful it is with the music, it reminded me of Minus the Bear in a way. But it also reminded me of Tokyo Police Club in a way as well, too. I feel like Tokyo is kind of like within that same genre. And so, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, that's his voice. Oh, yeah. It's been a minute since I've heard your voice. And at the same time, I feel like also like the style of music really did change. What made you go that direction?
It was just all a part of growing up, really. Not to say that what I listened to, back in 2008 when I was, just starting off with gigs, where it was just like Blink-182 and Fall Out Boy. But I guess after a while, I just started liking and appreciating other music. I have a friend where he actually showed me Vampire Weekend. And to this day, he thinks the third album is the best. And to me, I think, Contra is the best album. I gravitate to that more. It's just so interesting.
Yeah, no, and I think as a viewer, it's also interesting to see how much an artist can change, like from one album to the next, because you decided to place a specific theme on a specific album, or it's just a matter of knowing, hey, you know what, I'm going through something different in my life, and this is the route that I want to take it. Or you want to apply yourself, not in the sense of jumping on the bandwagon, but also just in the sense of saying, hey, I realize the trend. It's probably important for me to go this route instead. Just to name bands off the top of my head, Maroon 5, I feel is a good example of how much their music had changed. Yeah. Their first album to the type of music that they're playing now. I feel that they were one of those bands that decided to say, hey, we're going to evolve, yes, as an artist, but for the sake of also adapting, to to society and what they're listening to. And it's probably best if we move our music into something that's a lot more maybe poppy, a lot more dance worthy. So do you feel like it's more important to apply yourself when it comes down to the trends, or it's more important to kind of stay true to who you are as an artist and allow those that listen to your music to jump on because they specifically love your music, not because it's a trend?
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily believe in like following the trend, just because by the time you jump on a trend and by the time you get to a certain level where people are going to be, liking your stuff,
correct,
the trend's already going to change.
Right.
So I'd rather be true to yourself. Like I'm not who I was at, 18 or 16 whenever I started. I'm 29 now, completely different person with a completely different taste in music. I would rather appreciate it more if I wrote music to what I truly believe in at the time, and then people appreciate it at that time, at that moment in time.
Correct.
I feel like there's a better, stronger connection as to that point. I feel also like that the music is more organic, that it just feels real. It's not fake. There are artists out there that simply follow the trend for the sake of following the trends, but also with the changing of a new decade, what's going to be established as the new trend. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm going to take a swing with this band, with this EP, and see where this lands, and just appreciate wherever I land, honestly, and then just build from there. I guess that's what makes an artist an artist.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting too, because you and I were talking about the concept of just adapting and knowing that we're secluded, we're quarantined. I'm not an artist, but even myself am going crazy and trying to find ways to adapt to, I guess, our new world. And there's no way of knowing. I feel like it's from one day to the next, things have changed. And so I can only imagine what that's like, with an artist adapting. The concept of not being able to gig at an actual concert. The concept of having to cancel your concerts that you had already scheduled, and for those that have already bought tickets, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing that a lot of artists are going live. I'm getting a lot of notifications on a lot of the platforms that I'm on. I know Bands in Town is one of them.
Yeah.
iHeartRadio is another one that sends you notifications. And they'll also send me stuff via email, just saying, hey, you know what? This artist is going to go live. You can tune in here. Do you feel that this is more of a downfall for the music industry, or this is more of a new way of growing for the sake of saying this is going to allow artists to be a lot more creative? And the reason why I say that is because the last artist I was talking to, he feels that way. He feels that this is an opportunity for growth. How do you feel about this global pandemic that we're going through and how that affects an artist to be successful in the music industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with, with the person that you had last time, just because like me, for example, we have one single out. We're working on other music at the time.
Correct.
So what a cool opportunity would it be for fans that like the single and see us, rehearsing or practicing, going through ideas and brainstorming. I feel like fans really appreciate that with any artist. Like if I don't know, if Blink-182 was like, hey, we're going to just be going through song ideas for a future album, I would love to check that out. I would love to just watch and just see how the creativity works and to just feed from that and possibly use that influence in, my music and try and follow like some strategies that they do. I feel like with what's going on right now, it's a perfect time for artists, especially like smaller artists, to just grow and show people what they got. Because all you really need to do is just stream and you're good to go. You can do acoustics and stream and you'll be great. If you want to do live band, you can tailor that up to a little under $1,000 to set it up, mics, all that stuff on a computer, and you're good to go. And you can perform. You don't have to pay a venue to be like, hey, I would like to open up for this band, or hey, I would like to do this.
Correct.
If anything, now I feel like this is a time for if you want to be signed by a record company or all that stuff, they can find you and they can find your content online and be like, hey, this sounds amazing.
Right.
Let's sign these people or whatnot. I know now the in thing to do is DIY, which is definitely beneficial for a small artist. So I just think this is like another tool for us to have to just grow and expand our audience more.
That makes a lot of sense. I've been noticing, just because as a music viewer and a music lover, it's artists are getting creative, and along with that, it's kind of opening a lot of doors for the sake of interaction. It's not too long ago, Hero Prevails. They're another, not to do a shout out, but I'm gonna do a shout out. It's another local artist. Thought it was very creative. There was an opportunity there. He took it. He got chosen, and the artist himself was able to get in connection. It's Fred from Limp Bizkit. They had like a one-on-one session. He was talking to this band, a band that he grew up with, a band that he looked up to, and the band that influenced him as an artist. Right. And so you're getting the opportunity to sit in close and personal with someone that you probably wouldn't have had that capability before quarantine happened. Right. Yeah. So I thought that was very cool to kind of see them both communicating and seeing him perform a song for him. But we are noticing that technology, if we weren't taking advantage of it before, now we're taking advantage of it more than ever. And a lot of artists are responding to it, and it's very cool to kind of see these live sessions take place. Very cool to kind of see these top artists communicate with local artists. I agree that it's going to be an opportunity for growth, and so as far as being able to adapt to that growth, how are you handling? I know we talked about you handling on a personal basis, but are you going to be going live soon? Is the band going to be doing maybe some live sessions soon? Is that something that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to try and do that when I go up to Dallas with my friend and work on that stuff. To be honest, we haven't really pushed out much. We do have a Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to plug in Rio Waves Music. Follow January 15th when I released the single. And we were pushing out content, every 2 weeks or so. But then, of course, the virus stuff happened and we're like, okay, well, we can't do much. What's our next step?
Correct.
So yeah, and then with my drummer being not MIA, but just out of action at the moment, I couldn't create any content. But now that we're gonna go hang out, I will definitely do that. But in the meantime, I've just been studying what have other bands been doing, what podcasts are available to listen to for the marketing aspect of being in bands. I think that's so important to be studying and doing that stuff, because it gives you a leg up on any opportunities that may be available. I'm probably 10 episodes behind on a marketing podcast for musicians, but during this whole time I've been cramming them down. So it just gives you an extra foot to just be a better have a better presence online.
As far as having a presence online, we don't all have the answers, but what you come to understand, what type of advice would you give an artist, especially because of the times that we're currently living in regards to just kind of being a lot more interactive online and ways that we'd be able to develop that interaction. Because I know interaction is the key. And how do we do it? How do we develop it? How do we keep people entertained?
You would, yeah, definitely have to do research. Like for me, like I can't go and start a podcast and be like, hey, this is, the Rio Waves podcast, because a lot of people probably want to listen to because I don't have a lot of fans. But
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
But there's stuff like, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, where you can push content that, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It can just be, your single, the album artwork, and push that. Or you can push, a photo or something, just to let people know, like, hey, we're here. Come hang out with us, come chat with us.
Right.
And we were actually supposed to play South by Southwest until it's, yeah. A friend of mine was like, hey, come and play. And we were down to play. But even though we didn't have like a lot of material, we're like, I will write 3 or 4 more songs, and we are going to practice like every day until, South by, and we will like kill it. But
that would have been a great opportunity. Were you going to be opening up for someone special, or was it just an opportunity to kind of get your name out there?
It was definitely an opportunity to like branch out, because I have a buddy that lives here, and he's actually from the Valley too.
Cool.
He's opening his own wine business here, and they're just building it. So he was like, hey man, can you come and play? We can both like benefit and just like promote this thing like crazy.
Correct.
So I'm all about those Valley connections and trying just to help each other grow, especially in Austin.
Correct. I mean, let's talk about goals, right? Remember those? It's so when I last met you, you had Mayberry, the band, and you were playing at what? Was VFW a thing for y'all as a band? I mean, I know at that time UTPA was hosting gigs, and then at the same time there was NSN was coming up, and NSN was doing their thing with Geo and then the gang. Is that where you kind of started off?
No, I think we started off a little bit after that. We did play NSN.
Okay.
I think probably the second to last year we played that. And it's like, I know we opened up for like Plain White Tees one time.
Oh, yes. I remember that. That's right.
Yeah. We did several stuff like that. But doing VFW, that was more like when I was in my own punk rock band back in like 2006, where we were just like hustling. We were like the only punk rock. No, it was like us and another band called Lunch, I believe. We were like the only 2 punk rock bands in the Valley. So
fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
Miss those good old days. I mean, I do feel like the scene down here in the Valley has changed. Do you see yourself coming back to the Valley?
I try and keep in contact with all my friends. Like to this day, I still keep in contact with, the bass player and guitarist from In Case of Emergency, the punk rock band. And then even Heavy, like I still chat with those guys. Like they're some of my closest friends.
I remember we would all like, there were moments where you would go to a show and then all the bands would come together, like, let's all go to a house and hang out. And then you would end up talking to these people, and they kind of just became like everyday friends in a way.
Yeah. So like those bands were the ones I did, VFW, the Incubator, even the new Incubator, I think we played.
Right.
We kind of joked that a lot of, like back in the day, it was cool to be in a band. And now it's not cool, so there's not a lot of people. So like the ones that are still in bands like us, we're kind of like, oh, we're 29, and we're just like, we're just like those guys there. But it's all jokes. I honestly don't know what happened to like a lot of musicians. I mean, I know we all grow up, we all follow different paths in our lives. I totally understand that. I would just love to see, new bands or some new things, start popping up in the Valley.
Do you feel that it's changed, like for the sake of knowing that there was kind of a wave of music and then suddenly it died? And this is just talking about the local Valley in general. And then knowing that there's a new generation that's coming up and new resources are coming in and the world is changing just a little bit. Do you feel that there's going to be kind of another burst of excitement to happen again? Maybe some people from the past to come back and start working on new projects?
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I definitely felt the fall off probably 2012, 2013. I felt like around that time, a lot of bands just, grew up and went our own path. And I feel like the longer new bands, come and pop up in the Valley, I feel like it's just going to be that much more of a bigger burst, in which I would love to be a part of that and just help push this, this scene again and build it up into something, awesome, and just create this whole new wave of musicians and artists.
Would you ever, are you doing collaborations? Are you open to collaborations? And if you are, Would you ever come back to the Valley to do one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would love. I mean, I travel a lot.
Okay.
Like I'll go to the Valley and go, do whatever we got to do. I'm definitely dedicated in music and pushing music, especially in the Valley. That's just where I'm from, and I would love to, to continuously give back in that aspect. Yeah, like back then, like it was super hard to record music and do, one single. And now it's so cheap. Like you can get your own computer, learn how to just work on some audio engineering, and you're good to go. You can send a demo to a friend. That's what I'm going to do with my drummer.
What happens is that at that point you're kind of taking out the middleman. Well, the recording label. Do you think there's even a need for them anymore?
That's kind of hard, just because they do pay for like all like venues. You're basically paying for like connections, basically.
Correct.
It's what record labels do at this point in time. Because you can go and hire an audio engineer and he'll charge you, $3 to $5 grand to do an EP or an album, however big or small it is. And, with a record label, they may cover that cost, and they may cover, all the time that you're putting into writing the music, but then you're giving up like a big portion of your money.
I mean, I feel like everyone is feeling the concept of a financial crisis to a degree because of what we're dealing with right now. I mean, how are artists making money?
That is such that's something hard to figure out, at least for, musicians here in Austin. It's the bread and butter, every weekend or even every day, go play somewhere, make money, and then that's it. Like that's all they do. So right now they're probably really, really struggling, in which that's why I'm one to definitely help out, local businesses or even local artists. I don't know many Austin bands, but if you have something out, I'll listen to it. I will stream the hell out of, your music. That way you get enough money from your plays.
Correct.
If you have shirts or whatever, definitely work on stuff like that. So. Right.
So hopefully if quarantine is done, I don't know. My concern is it's never going to be done. I feel like we're waiting for Dr. Fauci to come or the medical industry to come out with the vaccine, and it's not going to be for a year. But I know. So if quarantine ends and we're able to actually communicate with people, face to face, and go out to bars and to gigs and to perform in front of an audience, when the time comes and we're out of quarantine and you do have some music that has come up, or maybe you're already even done with the EP, that'd be really cool to kind of get you on the set and maybe perform. That would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the time frame as far as when we can listen or when we can tune in to another song of yours?
Well, depending on when this crisis really ends, really. The plan initially was to release an EP by the summer.
Okay.
It was around July, so I don't know if that timeline has changed, but that's the goal. Maybe I'll push it back to August, just because we do want to release shirts at the same time. Get CDs. I know a lot of people don't do CDs, but if they have the album on their streaming services, they want to hand off the music to a friend, hey, you can do that too, and it'll help us out and help out your friend find something new to like.
And once again, you're tuning into Guac is Extra live series. You can tune in every week with a new artist. We're also looking for painters. We're looking for recording artists. You're looking at those that promote venues, promoters in general, venue owners. And so if you are someone that works or a vital source in the music industry, would definitely love to talk to you. And are there any final words that you would have to say, maybe some advice to bands that are currently dealing with the struggle?
Yeah, for sure. Just study. Marketing is such an important feature and tool that now is offered on Facebook. All platforms, really, all social media platforms, there's a tool that we all can use, and sure, it's going to cost money. But hey, even putting $50 or $100 a month or 2 months, whatever you want, and just to run, your pages to get promoted and liked and all that stuff, just to spread out your music, anything like that, that's even, helpful enough for you to grow as an artist. Guac is Extra.
Awesome.